you can have the ball as long as I'm in my right position. But Chelsea are a threat. Make no bones about it. They will have a say in the title race.
Arsenal have effectively kissed goodbye to their title hopes with that 1-1 draw at Stamford Bridge on Sunday, and yet another tactical stalemate between two of the Premier League's biggest teams. But Chelsea, on the other hand, proving their credentials as top four contenders. And back in the Tactics Exposed studio with me, Will Pugh, is Sun Sports tactical guru Dean Scoggins. And Dino, you have got 5 tactical points that fans should have or may not have noticed from that game at Stamford Bridge on Sunday.
Yeah, first of all, we look at, has Cucurella got Saka's number? Secondly, Cole's gone cold, but for the wrong reasons. Odegaard is the conductor of Arsenal, we know that, and the choir that he conducts is amazing. Chelsea's Sanchez forcefield on the Arsenal set pieces, and also Enzo Fernandez' instinct to count shirts.
Nice, I like it. Dino, just first of all, before we get into the tactical conundrums that you're so good at spotting, Mikel Arteta and his Arsenal team, who's left on the floor at the end when they couldn't quite get over the line. Is that it for the Gunners?
I don't think it's quite it. I think everyone wants to say it's over or they're in it or whatever. There's a long way to go. You think Man City are out of it? Not a chance. You know, Liverpool will not go this way till the end, and there'll still be some big twists. There's so many games left to play.
Yeah, that's true. Opta gave them a 4.4% chance of winning the title before that game. They've dropped 2 more points on Liverpool. I am not having it.
I'm not backing against them.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't be booking a spot at the Gunners title parade. I don't think there'll be any need for an open-top bus in North London this season. Marc Cucurella, he came up against Bukayo Saka in the Euros final, Spain against England. He came up against him again on Sunday and, according to you, got the better of him twice.
He did, and it's very interesting. We'll see both the touch mats of Saka in both those games, and it's pretty clear that Cucurella's got a plan. He's got a really good plan, okay? And there's 2 things to look at. First of all, how he attacks him. He goes in, he's very, very physical, hits him very, very hard. We know Saka gets fouled a lot, and he takes a lot of punishment from defenders. But Cucurella does it really quickly, gets to him as he receives the ball, not after he's received the ball. We've talked before about the Saka hijacker. We've talked about where Saka likes to receive the ball and touch the ball in field. Cucurella's already there. Yep. He's already there before that happens. So Saka immediately is taking the ball where he doesn't want to go. The other thing that's important is Cucurella's starting position. He's occupying an inside lane, OK? Very differently to what we may have done defending at our level. And when I played left-back, I'd have the centre-back screaming at me, show him on the outside, show him down the line. And then he'd scream at me 5 seconds later, don't let him cross it. Which one would you rather have? But in this instance, obviously, most teams playing wingers who invert and play with their wrong foot on the outside. Cucurella has started with a narrow position and allowed Saka to have the space outside of him, and then says, we'll have a race. Yeah. So also we've got to say Pedro Neto does a great job defensively, Lavia does a great job defensively, and even Cole Palmer got back a few times as well defensively to create traffic on the inside. So we know what Saka wants to do. He wants to come at the corner of the box and cut in on his left. Twice he got in the right position that he wanted to. Twice they fouled him in that position. And they were actually the only set pieces that they defended in that game. We'll come back to the set pieces later. But so effectively, it's early contact from Cucurella, and it's, you can have the ball as long as I'm in my right position. Right. And if we're on the halfway line, I'm not going to allow you to spin inside and do that lovely half-turn run that you do. He was there already, on top of him. Saka had, for his standards, a pretty quiet day.
So I understand what you mean about engage early with the contact. Positionally then, what is that right position? Where exactly was Cucurella?
He gives him the line. He gives him the line. So he says to him...
As in, lets him go out wide.
You can't mark every space against these players, right? No. You can't. You've got to concede something. Yep. And he says, you can have the maybe 10 yards, maybe 8 to 10 yard channel that runs from the halfway line down to the corner of the penalty area. You can have it there. Yep. But as soon as Saka came inside, that's my line. Right. That's my lane. I'm having that. I've got help from my mates inside me. And also, as I said, Neto did a good job a few times with Ben White going on the overlap. And Arsenal didn't quite get it right. A couple of times, especially in the second half, Saka came inside Cucurella to almost play like an inside 10, much, much closer to Kai Havertz. but then that blocks out space for Odegaard. So that, Chelsea created lots of traffic in that area.
Does Cucurella change his approach depending whereabouts they are, as in how far they are up the pitch, or whether, if Saka's receiving it, say on the halfway line or 25 yards inside Chelsea's box? Is there any differences there, or is it
there's a difference? The position is very similar. The position is very much corner of the area is Cucurella's attack line, and all the way up and down the pitch there. But it's whether you engage or not. So up high, he's going to engage. He's going to press there because he's got some cover. He's got a left-footed centre-back inside him in Levi Colwill, who had another great day. So did Fofana. And, but then if it's deeper, I'm not going to engage. I'm going to go to you, go on then, beat me one-on-one up the outside. You're not having that inside channel.
Yeah, fair enough. It does seem odd, doesn't it, that a sensible approach is to leave yourself in a race with Bukayo Saka, one of the Premier League's
quick enough, and he did it in the Euros, and, very, very quiet in that Euros final that we try and forget, but we can't. Yeah. And then we see Cucurella celebrating at the end.
Right, Cole has gone cold, but for the wrong reasons this time, not his famous celebration.
And this feeds in a little bit to what we were just talking about Cucurella. So Cucurella had missed a couple of games. He was left out after being suspended, and that was because Reece James came back into the team. We can talk about how Chelsea set up. Apologies if you've seen this before on Tactics Exposed, and if you haven't, where have you been? But Chelsea play with a box midfield. They invert one of the fullbacks.
Normally
Cucurella. And so this time it wasn't. The last couple of weeks it's been Malo Gusto. Yeah. Malo Gusto going from right back into a 4 in midfield. But obviously you need Cucurella to defend against Saka. So Saka had a job to do, and that moves Cole Palmer's position.
And also, because this is what we did in the Liverpool episode, right, was we talked about how in the reaction to the Chelsea-Liverpool game at Anfield, how the movement or the decision to make Gusto that inverted fullback actually had a negative impact on Palmer.
Yes, and it's the same thing. It's the same thing that's happened again, and in the Man United game as well. And, where Gusto is not going into one of the deeper midfield positions because you've got Caicedo and Lavia playing there. What Gusto is doing is going beyond that to be like a number 10 position from fullback. Yep. So, but it's just to create Maresca's box in midfield. But so because Gusto is going from right back to that right-hand advanced position, that means Cole Palmer is then shifted over to the left position. I struggle with it. I see why they did it in this game, because Cucurella had a job to do on Saka. So we're not going to invert the left back and for Palmer to play as the right-hand 10, because then that's just going to leave Saka with the freedom of Stamford Bridge. So, Cucurella, you've got your job to do. But it's a bit of a worry for Chelsea that going into, 2 weeks ago, Cole Palmer is top for everything. Shots on target from midfield, assists, key passes, goals from distance. Last 2 games, nothing. 0. No assists, barely a shot. Had 1 shot on target, I think, in the last 2 games. Really, really anonymous for him. And, frustrations. We saw him smash one over the bar from miles out because he's just not getting the ball as much and in the right areas.
So do you think that's what it is? Because obviously some fitness concerns around Palmer as well.
Yeah, I think
maybe
it was
other issues.
Not quite there, but I think it's a tactical thing. Maresca's made a brave decision that I want this to happen in midfield, right? That's his setup. But then you've got to fit that for different tactical reasons. And he had concerns about Saka, rightly, quite rightly. And with Odegaard back in the team as well, Arsenal predominantly attack down that right-hand side. We've talked about that before, where they're slightly lopsided. They attack much more down that right with Odegaard back in the team. So it was a bit of a sacrifice. Can Palmer impact the game as much from that side as he does from the inside right? His heat map showed that he was barely involved. There was no red areas on his heat map. He wasn't really receiving the ball in the same areas. And also Arsenal did a great job defensively. Saka was tied up by Cucurella going one way. The other way, what they did, Arsenal, was they created a triangle around him. So Thomas Partey comes from one side, Odegaard drops in, and Saka comes in there, and they create this little triangle around him. Not a box, right? No. Because in the box, that's where Cole Palmer makes space in the big areas. Really tight triangle. We're talking about 6 yards around him, just to stop him getting it. If he's got it, he's got a problem. And early on, Arteta was waving his hands around all over the place, because 4 or 5 times, Levi Colwill, as we've talked about before on the show, he's the one who fires the ball between the lines, balls, either into Jackson or Palmer. And Thomas Partey was not in the right position. And Arteta was going crazy at him to get in the right position on Palmer. A couple of times he got there too late and Palmer skipped past him. All of that happened in the first 7 or 8 minutes. and then Arsenal solved it. So that was much, much better for them after that.
Just quickly, before we move on to Martin Odegaard conducting the choir that is Arsenal's midfield and their whole team, indeed, is there anything to say in that Maresca, what he has to do to free up Palmer to do Palmer things, the goals, the assists and all the great stuff we've seen from him this season, is it fair to say that in order to free him up fully, Chelsea have to expose themselves a bit, particularly defensively, and that perhaps Maresca, in a game like that against Arsenal, when, let's be honest, really, that is a better point for Chelsea than it is at Arsenal, even though they're at home. Is that part of the equation where he goes, look, I might lose a bit of Palmer today, but I'm going to be much more defensively resolute against an excellent team, and I've got a better chance of getting something out of the game.
They haven't really had a sort of marquee result against a big side yet.
No,
so that's the one. That's the one they're looking for. And that may be because of the sacrifices, compromises that he's making. But the fact of the matter is that Palmer's a superstar. So also it's got to fall a little bit on Palmer in those positions to free himself up. Personally, I wouldn't move him. You know, Messi never played anywhere else, did he? He's always in the same position. Everybody else solve it and we'll give him the ball. You know, I think that's twice I've compared Messi to Palmer. That's a bit much. But you know what I mean? That concept of he's our man, we play him where he's strongest is what I believe in. But you've got to say that they did a good job on Saka yesterday. They did a good job on Odegaard yesterday. You know, they got most of it right, Chelsea. But Jackson had a tough day against two quality centre-backs and Palmer didn't get the ball in quite enough areas. But you know, they found other ways as well.
Yeah, fair enough. Lionel Messi may have never played in any other but one position. Neither did Marc Noble, I'd just like to add. Always a centre midfielder for West Ham. Martin Odegaard, he was back. All hail the return of the hero. So said the Gunners fans before the game. Didn't have quite the impact they would have liked because ultimately they didn't get the win that they desperately needed to keep their title hopes alive. But he did make a huge difference having him back.
He did, and captain, conductor. We'll get onto the attacking in a second, but it's not just the attacking, right? It's his pressing. It's his understanding of space, understanding where everybody is around him. And honestly, he must come off with his arms almost as tired as his legs because he's waving his arms all over the place, pointing, and as I said, properly like a conductor. It's Havertz go, it's Martinelli come in, it's Saka stay with me, it's Partey get closer to me, you know, and then when he sees the opportunity for them to press, go.
Well, he's the trigger.
He's the trigger, absolutely. And Kai Havertz actually has done an okay job in his absence. But just him coming back and watching it yesterday, they nearly got in after about 3 minutes, Arsenal, because Odegaard set a trap. He's going, wait, everybody wait. And then the pass gets played. He's go. And that's all on him. He's a fantastic player. You know, we all talked about how important he is and how much they've missed him. And then he comes back into the side and you're almost like, wow, how have they coped without him?
Yeah.
How have they got the points that they have without him? Just a sensational player. And on one side, Chelsea's defending that inside lane with Saka, right? Creating that traffic. When we look at the goal that Arsenal scored, it actually comes from there as well.
Yeah.
And that's because Odegaard has worked it out. Odegaard has worked out, well, if there's 4 players around me and Saka, somebody else is free. Somebody else has got the space.
Yeah.
And so he barely even looks. He sort of knows where everyone is. You know, that sort of sixth sense that those players have for that. And there's not many who can do it. He does. And he comes back inside on his left foot. And then Chelsea have got a problem. I've no idea why they're playing offside at that point. Just mark the man and drop back with it.
Yeah.
But he lifts a beautiful ball in behind. And second half, as the game got more stretched, we really started to see Odegaard tick. Right near the end, he conducted another press where he nicked the ball. They should have scored again. And then the one that flashed across the face of goal, that's because Odegaard's pushing Arsenal into those right areas again. And Trossard gets a little touch. Havertz maybe could have gambled, but it's last minute. They're all tired. But it all comes from Odegaard, all of it. So fabulous player. And if they are going to get closer in the title race, it'll be because of him.
The brains behind the outfit, indeed.
Absolutely.
Chelsea's Robert Sanchez-shaped force field. Talk to me.
Yeah, and Arsenal set pieces again, right? So there's a couple of things to note here. Chelsea didn't give corners away. They were desperate not to give corners away, and they did really well with it. Sanchez was coming out.
Seems sensible, that.
Yeah, absolutely. But Sanchez was coming out quite risky at times, right out to the edge of his areas on the touchline to stop the ball going out, throw-ins instead of corners. They did concede a couple of free kicks where Saka was fouled. That was you've got to make a Colwill did him once, Cucurella did him once, because just to stop him getting into that position. But what they did brilliantly on the Rice free kicks, they stepped right up to the edge of the box.
Yeah.
So they created that space. A couple of times Sanchez could have caught it and he punched it, but such is life with goalkeepers these days.
Particularly Robert Sanchez, maybe. He's just not quite at that level.
No, I'm not convinced about him at all. Let's just touch on the goal for a second. He's got to stop it, right?
Yeah.
He's got to stop it. Near post. If you're going to step off, you've got to save it.
Is that
right?
a bit of trope, though, the old near post thing?
No, it's absolutely not. I mean, it's much, much more difficult for a striker to hit the target going across the goal. Either, come out and give yourself that block, but you've got to save it that side, or just block off that line. Martinelli looks at him. If Martinelli doesn't see the gap at the near post, he doesn't go for it.
Yeah.
So that was an error, right? That's a massive error. But on the set pieces, on the corners especially, what Chelsea did was they put Jackson at the front post, good header of the ball, big guy, and then instead of the centre-backs marking, the two centre-backs were in front of Sanchez on the edge of the 6-yard box.
Yeah.
And then all the other midfield players, the wingers, the guys they're the blockers. So when Arsenal do their thing where they have the train at the back post or, the big red wall coming.
Whatever Nicholas
whatever it is this week. And the other thing that was really noticeable was that Neto did that thing that's infuriated us here on Tactics Exposed at times about defending. He stood with his arms out.
Yeah.
On Gabriel.
Yeah.
So what Romero didn't do in the Tottenham game and what other teams haven't done, what Man City didn't do well enough, stood with his arms out to block him running. So Chelsea got the blockers right, but they created that circle around Sanchez that if an Arsenal player is coming into that area, he's not getting a free run. They were committed. They were fully up for the ball in the air. They defended the set pieces against Arsenal better than anyone has this season so far. And if only the goalkeeper caught a few and bowled it out, they might have had a few counter-attacks.
Yeah, not quite the finished object, Chelsea. Finished article, even, Chelsea.
But
they're trending in the right direction,
They are
aren't
getting
they?
there, yeah. They're a bit of a worry for the others, I think.
Final one, Dino, Enzo Fernandez and his instinct to count shirts.
Yeah, he had an instant impact, Fernandes. It's a really, really tricky one for Maresca. This is, again, slight compromise, OK? I really think that Enzo is a Fernandes, that is, as opposed to Maresca, is a top quality player, right? The price tag weighs heavy.
£105 million would suggest that he's all right.
All right, fair enough. But the price tag's difficult. But what he does is he impacts the game all the time. So Maresca's leaving him out because he likes Caicedo and Lavia defensively. Yep. Nothing wrong with that. And therefore, then Gusto has to advance into that area. But when Enzo Fernandez plays, he gives you something different going forward. And he did that straight away as he came on. It was a clever sub. It was the right sub. And he links play better than Lavia. And he gets into positions that Lavia doesn't. And then when it came to the goal, he gets the ball off Neto to begin with. And he turns to his left and he scans. A bit like we talked about with Odegaard just before. He scans that way. And players at that level have got the ability to look and know that that's the wrong way to go because there's too many red shirts. I'm not saying he's going to say, yes, there's 6 in front of me and give you a number. But he just knows, wrong way to go. He goes back the other way and then Neto makes a very clever run. And it really, really is underestimated how good that pass is from Enzo Fernandez. The weight of it is just, it's like an invite. Go on. Just move into that area. And he rolls it in there, and then it's a great goal. Don't get me wrong, Neto does brilliantly. But Arsenal do make some big errors, and that's why Arteta was so angry afterwards. And, not acceptable, I think he called it. And it was from the set piece, which is bizarre from Arsenal. The set piece came in, and Saliba goes for a wander. He goes out into the left-back position. He overtakes Timber and goes out to the ball. And then the ball goes back into Chelsea's midfield. It goes to Fernandes from Neto. Neto moves. Fernandes turns. Neto goes back in again. And Saliba is still not back in his centre-back position. He's still not got back across. Also, Martinelli goes to sleep because Neto's his man, should go with him. So there were some errors there. But let's not take away from the forward play. Quality forward play from Pedro Neto. Quality play from Enzo Fernandez. And another bit of a dilemma for Enzo Maresca on he knows how much Enzo Fernandez impacts football matches but he doesn't quite fit in this system. I want to play with these two. So nice problem to have, though. £100 million player on the bench.
Absolutely, and you've done earlier on this season on Tactics Exposed how a lot of the unselfish work that Fernandes is doing, and I think Chelsea fans would probably agree that they're finally starting to see some of their investment paid back.
Absolutely, and the point about Palmer that we made earlier as well, that'll be a question mark this week. Is Palmer not producing as much because Fernandes is not playing?
Right, Dino, can Chelsea finish above Arsenal then?
I'm not sure if they can finish above Arsenal. I'd say it's still a three-horse race. I think now Arsenal have got Odegaard fit, then they're going to be a different proposition. But Chelsea are a threat. Make no bones about it. They will have a say in the title race, but mainly because the others have all got to play Chelsea.